So I have before me two very popular laptops. The laptop built for creators, the Asus Pro Art Studiobook Pro 16 OLED, and the laptop that creators have come to love, which is technically a gaming laptop, but a killer creator laptop for photo editing, video editing, graphic design, photography, 3D modeling, and architecture. This thing is a beast. So the question is, which one is right for you? We're gonna talk about the features and functionality, and then we're gonna dive into the performance benchmarks later to help you make the right choice. Now, first and foremost, these are both spec'd out with 16 gigs of RAM. The i7-12700H, however, the Legion 5i Pro has an RTX 3060, and the Asus Pro Art Studiobook Pro 16 OLED has the RTX 3080 Ti. However, they are closer in performance than you would expect. That to come later in the video. First and foremost, let's take a look at the weight and thickness to see which one is a better fit. Now, they both weigh about the same, and they both are about the same thickness as well, so that's not too big of a difference. In past years, I would have said that the Pro Art is the much classier laptop, and the Legion is the gamier laptop. However, that has changed. Legion has definitely updated their look to create a more professional look. Now, besides these bigger vents on the back of the laptop and this plastic ledge, this laptop does have a very professional look, which I like a lot. So really, either way, you're gonna have a professional look. However, you don't have the word Pro Art on the front of your laptop by choosing the Legion. Now, going ahead and looking at the ports, we have a very similar port selection. However, the big advantage of choosing the Asus Pro Art Studiobook is the SD card reader. Definitely very creator focused. The Legion 5i Pro does not have an SD card reader. However, you do have a network port on both laptops, which makes it great for streaming games and streaming video, which is something I do. I stream live from time to time here on my channel. And then we have a USB Type-A and a headphone jack. And on the Legion 5i Pro, we have USB Type-C, HDMI, and two USB Type-A's. Now you can find two more USB Type-C's on the Legion 5i Pro on the left side panel, and you will find two on the Pro Art as well on the left side panel. Now you'll have an additional USB Type-A, your power adapter, and your HDMI. And on the other side of the Legion 5i Pro, you will have one more HDMI, your headphone jack, and a manual cutoff switch for the webcam. So punch for punch, the ports are very similar. Outside of the Pro Art, adding a SD card reader, and the Legion 5i Pro having an extra USB Type-C. Now, checking out the build quality of each of the laptops, they're both assembled very nicely. You have a little bit of a ledge sticking out here on the Pro Art, as you can see here from the top cam. It sits in a little deeper, so there's kind of an edge there. It's not catchy, it's not sharp, but it does kind of stick out a little bit. Compared to the Legion 5i Pro, I love the assembly on this laptop. It really just nestles itself right against the edge there. Very smooth, no catchy edge. So the assembly is slightly better on the Legion 5i Pro. Now, one thing I do notice a lot when I'm reviewing this laptop is you can see it gets fingerprints very quickly. I actually wiped this down before I started the review, and already lots of fingerprints, where on the Legion, it doesn't fingerprint very easily. I mean, I can see a couple here, but they're very, very faint. You can't even see them on the camera. So that's definitely one thing from just an aesthetic standpoint, more fingerprints in the Pro Art. Now, looking at the screens, they're both 16-inch panels. However, we have a beautiful OLED panel on the Asus Pro Art Studiobook. Now, I will say that it is not as bright as the panel on the Legion 5i Pro. You can see the brightness and the color gamut range coming up for each of these models. You'll definitely have a better color gamut range and color accuracy on the Asus, but you'll have a brighter panel on the Legion 5i Pro. So depending on what you care about, a little bit brighter or a little bit more color accurate, you can have your choice there. Now, they both have webcams, and here's a quick sample of the webcam from each of the laptops. This is the webcam on the Asus Pro Art Studiobook Pro 16 OLED, and a little sample of the audio for you as well. This is the camera on the Legion 5i Pro, and a little audio sample for you as well. When I back up a little bit, it kind of mellows out. When I get really close, I'm really close to my light. So the camera actually looks pretty good, especially for that 720p webcam. And of course, if you want to know what the speakers sound like coming out of these laptops, here's a quick audio sample of the speakers for you as well. Now the keyboards are very similar. They both have a numpad on the right side, but you can see that the trackpad is centered on the Asus Pro Art, where it's a little set off to the left on the Legion 5i Pro. Now they both have full-size shift keys, they both have full-size arrow keys, but as you can see, the Asus comes with a dial. One of the coolest features I've seen come out from a hardware standpoint on a laptop in quite a few years. It's actually a big productivity booster. I talk a lot about it in a dedicated video I filmed on it. So if you're curious about learning more about the dial, definitely head on over to my channel and check it out. However, for a brief overview, you can program this to change your brush size. You can change your system volume and your brightness on your screen just with a spin of the dial. You can scroll through your timeline for Premiere Pro. There's a lot of tools and shortcuts you can program into the dial while you're in-app to boost your productivity. Now, here's a quick audio sample of what each of the keyboards and trackpads sound like so you can hear for yourself. If you're curious about the exact pricing and availability of each of these models, you can head down in the description below and click those links. If you do make a purchase, I'll get a small commission, but at no extra cost to you. Lenovo has sent to over 3 Legion 5 Pros for us to give away when we pass 100,000 subscribers. So if you've yet to subscribe, definitely do so and ring the bell so you don't miss out on the full video when we launch the 100,000 subscriber giveaway. Now, battery life is really close for these two laptops. You can see the battery life results coming up on the screen. Not a huge difference between each of them. They both have really good control inside of the Legion Vantage Center and the Asus Pro Art Command Center. So you can tweak the settings very easily in both of the systems. So really they're punch for battery life and customization of the fan modes. Now, as far as the thermals and fan noise on each of these laptops, there's gonna be better thermals from the Asus Pro Art Studiobook, but you're actually gonna have a better fan noise out of the Legion 5i Pro. So a slightly quieter laptop for the Legion 5i Pro, but a slightly cooler laptop for the Asus Pro Art Studiobook. Now let's take a look at the performance benchmarks to see which laptop has better performance. Now, looking at the simulated benchmarks, you can see that for Geekbench single core and multi-core, the Asus Pro Art Studiobook has the advantage. As we move into Cinebench R20, same thing. And I think that actually has a lot to do with the RTX 3080 GPU inside of the laptop. But you can see in R20, it's only about 600 points more inside of the simulated benchmark. Now, moving on to Cinebench R23, you can see that they're pretty much neck and neck for single core. And then as we get into multi-core, you can see that they're pretty much neck and neck as well. Now, things start to take a turn when we get into Blender Classroom. That RTX 3080 Ti for Blender makes a big difference. You can see that the 5i Pro is sitting around a 637, where the Asus Pro Art is sitting around an 858. So definitely that RTX 3080 Ti inside of Blender is important, more GPU power. Now, getting into Autodesk 3ds Max, you can see an advantage for the Pro Art by about 9 points. But then as you switch over to Maya, you can see that the Legion 5i Pro takes over by about 5 points. Moving on to PTC Creo, we see the advantage come back to the Pro Art by about 30 points. And then moving on to SolidWorks, really neither laptop will have the advantage. If you do want the Pro Art Studiobook and you do want SolidWorks performance, I recommend getting the A3000 or the A5000 GPU. That is a workstation GPU and will give you far better performance inside of SolidWorks. Now, the crazy thing about the first 3 3D modeling tests is that the Legion 5i Pro has an RTX 3060, which is 6 gigs of VRAM versus the RTX 3080 Ti in the Pro Art Studiobook, which is 16 gigs of VRAM. And so the Legion 5i Pro is definitely optimizing its parts much better than the Asus Pro Art. And let's see what happens as we move down the line for the benchmarks. Next, we're looking at Photoshop, scoring a 1,171 inside of Photoshop versus the 970 out of the 5i Pro. Now, that does look like a substantial increase in performance. However, if you were to upgrade the 5i Pro to 32 gigs of RAM from the 16 that it comes with, I'm guessing we would easily see in the thousands to 1100s for the 5i Pro. So that really isn't as big of a difference as you might think. That more powerful GPU is slightly helpful, but adding RAM to your system would be far more important. Now, next up on the list is After Effects. So you can see we have a 907 versus a 921, a minimal difference there, which is again crazy because this has an RTX 3060 and this the RTX 3080 Ti. Now moving down the line to Premiere Pro drop frames, they're very similar on the drop frames test. As you can see the results coming up on the screen, so really either will prove well for you there. Moving on to 4K video editing, you can see the 5i Pro actually outpaces the Asus Pro Art by about 20 some seconds. So really cool to see the 5i Pro outperforming a more powerful laptop. Like I said, it is one of the creators' top favorite gaming laptops versus a laptop built for creators. But again, features and functionality are really awesome on the Pro Art. Next up is the 6K video editing export time. You can see we have 14 minutes and 43 seconds out of the 5i Pro and 15 minutes and 26 seconds out of the Asus Pro Art. Finally, landing in DaVinci Resolve, 5 minutes and 56 seconds versus 6 minutes and 12 seconds. So very close on DaVinci Resolve. Now, punch for punch, I would push you towards the Legion 5i Pro if you're looking for the best bang for buck. And if you do have a little extra spending money, you could even get it with the RTX 3070 Ti. I think that might top out around the $1,900 to $2,100 price point. But if you get it with the RTX 3060, it's usually anywhere from about $1,700 to $1,800, give or take the exact pricing at the time you're watching this video. I'll put links in the description below if you want to know the exact live pricing of each of these laptops, or if you want to make a purchase. Now, I would push you towards the Pro Art Studiobook Pro 16 OLED, that is the longest name in laptop history, if you like the SD card reader, the more color accurate screen, and the Asus Pro Art Dial. I mean, this thing is packed with features and has as good a performance as the Legion 5i Pro. Now, you said, okay, Ben, but it has the RTX 3080 Ti. Do I really need to pay that much? I don't think so. I honestly think you could get this with the RTX 3070 Ti, and that'll save you a few $100s. And then one thing I would recommend if you're a photographer or a digital artist or graphic designer, I would go for the RTX 3060 version, which will save you even more money, and then take that money and upgrade the laptop to 32 gigs of RAM, which makes a bigger difference in key applications you would use like Photoshop, InDesign, and Illustrator. So that would be my top recommendation for these two laptops. Let me know in the comments below which one you're considering. I would love to hear your feedback. Otherwise, links in the description if you're ready to make a purchase, likes if this video has brought you some value, and subs if you don't want to miss out on the future uploads. I'll see you here in the next one.